Hello and welcome to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast where a lifelong comic book reader guides his friend through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me, as always, is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
Memory, all alone in the
I
moonlight.
have I
This
ever
is
mentioned how much I despise you?
yes, you have. But look, we're talking about Catwoman, so this
We're
is
talking about Catwoman when in Rome, and
yes.
yeah, it's exciting. I'm really excited for this.
I'm excited.
This
First
of course
episode of
being
year
like
two,
yeah,
Fresh
well,
Face
not of the
Comics.
year. Jacob, I don't like the way you split up our years. Can we just say that 2023 is started the start of the new year?
No.
I fucking hate you. Okay, for those listening, if you want to get fucking technical, this is the first episode of our new year, like of after our first year of the podcast has ended. So
Yes. So that's
there's that.
fun.
Jacob is pedantic, so tell him
Yes.
that.
Also, I'm kind of stalling because I'm scared as we get ever closer to episode 30.
You will not stall anymore. This is happening. We're
This
getting
is happening. This is
close.
we're getting
Um,
we're getting too close for comfort.
It's so exciting. I love it. But today we're talking about Catwoman When in Rome, which I'm very excited about. We're kicking off technically our new Batman block. That'll really start next time. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, so we're talking about Catwoman When in Rome by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Getting into our non-spoiler section first. Jacob, this is the third Jeff Loeb Tim Sale Bat book we've read. What is it about?
So, if you remember way back when we did Dark Victory, there is a stretch of time where Selina leaves Gotham City and we don't see her. This is a depiction of 1 week of that time. Takes place over the week, over the course of 6 issues. Each issue is a day. And she is, in fact, going to Rome to
Mhm.
answer multiple Twitter questions. Yes, this does take place in Rome,
Yeah,
which,
which is kind of weird actually. We're getting into Twitter questions pretty early with this one. But we do have a couple questions about the setting of Catwoman when in Rome. So our first actually is from who the fuck is it from? Okay, Mason. Actually, okay, we'll do a string of questions from Mason to start with. At the GD 256, one, does it take place in Rome? The answer to
yes.
that is yes. Which is yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know for some reason like because I've known this story for quite a long time. Like I never put together that like oh maybe it's just like an expression, but no like it takes place in Rome, so that's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
I mean,
Um,
I can see why. I think the setting is one of the most interesting things about this miniseries. Like, one, Sale is having a fucking blast just drawing all the
oh yeah,
backgrounds, and you can tell.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but also, it takes a character who you think right Gotham City and just sort of takes it out to this very different just this different setting and different idea just this different setting making for a very different feeling.
Yeah, and so there are a couple things from Gotham that get brought over to here, and so like for like longtime Batman readers, like oh yeah, that's not weird. But then like to Selena, it's like oh yeah, that is weird.
It's
Why
like
is Mister Freeze's freeze gun here? Why is Joker's laughing gas here?
in
And
Rome.
yeah, and it's really interesting. And also there's another other than the Riddler, because the Riddler is a pretty big part of the story. He goes with Selena over to Rome. But there's another character that comes over from Gotham that's here towards the end. So
Yes,
yeah,
and
it's
that was
cool.
certainly a surprise.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. But getting into Mason's second question, name one good thing about the Catwoman movie. Honestly, I can't.
I
I
mean,
literally cannot.
I'm sure Halle Berry got paid well. That's a good thing.
Yeah, a good paycheck is certainly a good thing. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sure. Yeah. Three, if you could give one Batman villain slash character a spin-off to the level of Catwoman's, who would it be? That's kind of tough for me because the ones that spring to mind are like Harley Quinn, but she already has,
Yeah, she she
her
already
own
has
solo
just well,
series, and
you know
there's
who I
Joker,
think
of
would do a
course.
really good idea for a solo series that would be different from like sort of your standard superhero comic, The Penguin.
That yeah, that'd be kind of cool. As I when we got this question earlier today, I was like, "Ooh, what are some?" There are like some good answers that you could give to that one. The one that springs to mind because he was the protagonist, one of the protagonists of a Detective Comics run, Clayface.
Ooh.
There's so much potential in that character, and I love what they did with him in that run, and I would like to see more of that. Mason's fourth question says, "Which cat would make the best roommate?" Um, I mean, I have a cat named Freddy. He's pretty chill, so he's kind of a roommate. I don't know.
I don't know. He just hangs out. I'd say
Yeah,
no cats. Cats don't necessarily.
yo, cats are chill. Fuck
Well,
you.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Roommate implies some sort of equal footing. Cats and humans don't have equal footing. Cats clearly own their owners.
Yeah, that's true. And anyone that's read Neil Gaiman's The Sandman will know this for a fact. Um, five, favorite kind of fish food. Haha, because cat. I don't really like seafood or anything like that. I don't know. I'm weird with that stuff. How about you?
I like shrimp. I quite like shrimp.
Six, concept, a Catwoman movie, but it's animated like Cats 2019.
I mean,
No,
okay, but
no,
you could adapt this and have that animation be a thing for
no.
one sequence.
Seven, if you could have one cat power, what would it be? I like the running really fast. I think that's pretty great.
I would
Um,
go with being able to land on my feet and not be a terrible klutz.
and then eight, showing the mastermind behind all this. Eight, Jacob, is this chaotic enough for you?
Yes, thank you, Mason.
Thank you, Mason. It really means a lot. Speaking of chaotic Twitter questions, our friend Kellogg at underscore Kellogg says meow. I'm assuming that means I don't know. Did we
I
like
don't
the
know.
story?
I mean, I did. Though interestingly, I think it's the weakest of the Loeb Sale
I
Batman
agree. I
series. Like,
agree. But
it's not bad.
it's
It's
still like it's
still
still like a 9 out of 10 for
yeah,
me,
oh
you
yeah,
know?
it's still
Like,
top
yeah.
quality. It's
Yeah.
just I think it might be because this takes place over the week instead of a
Yeah.
year,
And
and
then
it's
all
a
and
midquel.
also maybe that the quality is just to be expected from the team at this point, you know?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also it's a midquel. We're in the middle of a different story going on,
Yeah. Yeah,
telling
definitely.
this very nice side story.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that I think really works. I will say for Kellogg's question, I had no part in this. I
Yeah, yeah, that's entirely her own doing. So
yes,
there's that.
and
Um, our friend Jamie at Jamie underscore season 7 says, I don't know what this is about, so when are you reading the Ed Brubaker Catwoman?
well, here's Joey. You can put it on the list because Ed Brubaker's a name that I've heard
Ed Brubaker's
good
a great
things.
writer, and there are definitely some Ed Brubaker things I want to have you read like before his Catwoman, and I've never read his Catwoman, so I don't know.
I
As
don't
of
know.
right
Well,
now, it's not on the list, but I mean, it can be if I read
can
it and
be.
I really like it.
It can be.
I hear it's really good. I hear nothing but good things.
And we could have
Um,
Jamie as a guest on the episode.
Jamie also says, "Why is Catwoman?" Probably because she has a really fucked up past.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's kind of the point of this one.
yeah. Also, I love how Jeff Loeb's DC stuff is critically acclaimed, and then you get what he wrote for Marvel, which is interesting because the Jeff Loeb Marvel stuff I've read has only been his collaborations with Tim Sale, so the color books like Spider-Man Blue and all that. And they're all of the same quality as this and Long Halloween and Dark Victory and all that. So I don't know. I don't know if Jamie's trying to imply that, the rest of it isn't good, but I
I
don't know.
think there's some other stuff that he wrote for Marvel that's
I mean, I
shit.
hear his Hulk run is pretty good.
I hear there's a story called like Ultimatum that's supposed to be
Yeah, I know
terrible,
that's like the really bad one. So,
and that might be where Jamie's coming from.
yeah.
Um,
Our friend Rachel at Chell's Seashells says, "Does any of the story take place in Rome?" Yes.
yes,
Is it a reference to Carmine the Roman Falcone? Is it simply the old saying without any deeper meaning, or is there a secret fourth answer? So it does take place in Rome, but also I do think obviously that is meant to be related to Falcone because of why Catwoman is there, which we'll get into in spoilers because we don't want
yeah,
to
I
talk
mean
about
the entire
it.
story is her investigating her past,
Mhm,
investigating the Roman side of what's the Falcone family,
mhm.
um, all while
And also to answer the third question, yeah, it is a play on the saying when in Rome.
yeah.
Um, and I don't think there's a secret fourth answer, but I mean, hey, yes to pretty much all your other questions.
I
And then
mean,
also, we got an interesting last question, not on Twitter, but it was sent to you directly,
on
by a friend,
Discord.
our friend Andrew, who was on the podcast before, but he is now no longer on Twitter, so he sent it privately. Says, how have your opinions on Catwoman changed over time, if they have? Would you class her as a villain, anti-hero, or something else entirely? Jacob, obviously that's a question for you.
Yeah, so okay. So going in to the podcast in general, the image of Catwoman in my mind was Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns, right?
Hmm.
So it's always been at least a little anti-hero or at least a little sympathetic just because of how that movie works. Like, I had seen The Dark Knight Rises, but also I don't remember a whole lot about Anne Hathaway's performance in that movie.
I mean, honestly, give it a rewatch. She's really damn good in that
I
film.
mean, it's Anne Hathaway, so yeah, she's probably great.
Yeah,
But there were just other things, other over the top things like Tom Hardy as Bane that when I think of that
we
movie,
love Tom Hardy.
yeah, but he's over the
He's
top and it's great.
he's a good meme. We love it. Um,
Uh,
also worth noting that as we are recording this, the official Sandman season 2 announcement just came out. Anyway, just
yes,
wanted to point that out because that's been rumored all day.
yeah,
And
it's been all day and they've wait, have they did they just officially do it?
yeah, they just officially posted it. Yeah, the
So like,
DC
wait,
page.
like DC did or
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
oh, okay, so
DC actually put.
they
Yeah, so now they kept the tweet up that they had up before.
oh good.
We got
It's
to go on more tangents on this
we
podcast.
do. It's happening. I love that this is. Yeah, dear listeners, this is what's been happening all day. It's been the mix and of people still spreading the it's been canceled rumor because of that one account a little
Yeah.
bit.
And they're fucking
Uh,
wrong about that. Also, if you want to hear our thoughts on the Sandman season 1, you could check out our 4th bonus episode of the podcast, where we
yes,
have 2 guests on, one of which is Mason, who submitted a plethora of questions today.
yes,
So,
and who will be a returning guest
yes,
in
on
the near-ish future.
early next year.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say I know it's in January.
Yeah.
I think end of January.
Might be early February actually.
He's on 34, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's January 30th.
I fucking hate that you know more about this
I
podcast.
have look, I
I
have my spreadsheet open as we're recording, so I
like
have the
I'm just
dates
saying
to
like I
refer
just
to. Anyway, back to Catwoman. So just sort of continue Andrew's question. I've always had her as an anti-hero. I think what's been fascinating um, is I think Loeb and Sale have been the writers, I think, so far that have featured her prominently that have done her the best.
Mhm.
Like she's not really in the Scott Snyder run. Frank Miller features her in Year One in Dark Knight Returns, but love. I don't love everything about
Yeah,
that portrayal.
you know what's weird actually that I've realized over time? I think I prefer her portrayal in Dark Knight Returns than I do in Year One.
Yeah, the Dark Knight Returns kind of works because she's older.
Yeah, yeah, and also just the scene between her and old Bruce and that is just really good.
It's a really sweet scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Lowe especially gets the character.
Mhm.
And I think
Um,
When in Rome is a really fascinating look into the character.
mhm. Also, interestingly, this is the first piece of like long Halloween era media to come out post Hush. So there is actually some Hush foreshadowing throughout this story.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think it's very intentional that Loeb wants to make explicit that so that my hunch when we way back when we recorded our first episode that Selena knows Bruce's identity
Hmm.
is true, but it's subconscious. So
Yeah, I could see that. I could, especially on reread, because it's the first time I've reread it since we started the podcast. Um,
yeah,
that
uh,
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
there's also
Um,
just the very interesting, of course, the interesting dynamic about her trying to find a place with her family. Um, I kind of like that this is a story that also, interestingly, without going into spoilers, has some unresolved tension by the end.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Like the collected editions include a page from Dark Victory at the end.
Hmm. Which
But
is interesting because today I'm reading from the omnibus, the Jeff Loeb Tim Sale omnibus, and that cuts the Dark Victory page, obviously, because Victory is already in this story, in this
right,
collection. So
right, and I'm
yeah.
reading for those wondering from the deluxe edition, which I love this cover.
Hmm.
Like it's such a good cover.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's such Selena's just an interesting character, and to kind of dissect her is really interesting. That was one thing that I was really hoping for going in that I felt really satisfied on.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
as well as
Um,
interestingly, Joey, you said expect Loeb to be horny. So I was
yeah.
like,
And
it's there,
it's definitely there. Yeah.
but it's
It's
not as bad as some other
yeah,
horny.
but honestly, like This is where I really want to shift the focus to Tim Sale as an artist in this. So, fantastic artist as always, brilliant stuff. And he's colored by Dave Stewart this time, which I think is just first off the better colorist when compared to the Long Halloween Dark Victory stuff. It's got this brilliant like watercolor look to it. But I will fucking say, on Tim Sale's art in this, and Jeff Lowe being kind of horny throughout this mini series, and having a fair few scenes where Selena is like in a state of undress.
Yes.
Tim Sale as an artist, I'm not even necessarily going to call it tactful because it is still like fairly explicit, but there's a
It feels less male gazy than
is honestly like
like
there's a page early on here when we exit the first little like dream sequence of the book, when Selena first wakes up, that I'm just like that like Tim Sale just like I'm trying to think of a tactful way to say this. But Tim Sale draws like just beautiful women, like, and not in like a, oh, like look at how gorgeous they are, like just genuinely just beautiful women, and like I
you know what it kind of it reminds me of in a little bit like 1800s art of women,
mm,
like like not necessarily Italian art, but like French impressionist art.
well, what's weird actually? I think I read somewhere a while back that Sale actually took some inspiration from like a French Italian artist.
He did, because that's where all the covers came from.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
homages to something that I'm not sure exactly, but like they're all homages to one particular artist's paintings.
yeah.
And the covers of the individual issues are gorgeous.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
really nice. They're minimalist, but they still like convey a very specific message, and I really like that.
yeah, and they're just they're it's a really nice story, and I'm just glad that this is back in print and easily available for people to read.
I would say easily available, but also whenever you look it up, it just doesn't show up on Amazon.
That's true. Easily available if you're not on Amazon. I'm sure if you go to like Barnes and Noble or anywhere else that sells books, their websites, and get it from there, it'll be easier
Yeah.
than why Amazon has it the way it does.
hmm
Um,
But I guess that about does it for non-spoilers. We,
yeah,
we, we actually
yeah,
went on with that. So let's get into our spoiler section. We're gonna cover all 6 issues of Catwoman when in Rome. I'm so excited for this. Let's jump right into it.
yes.
Um, so there,
Before we go in, of course, if you haven't, if you'd like to read this going in non-spoiler free, hopefully we've convinced you. There will be a link down below, and if you just want to skip ahead to the very end, to find out what we're doing next time. You can go right ahead and do that. But after this point, we're going full spoilers.
Yeah, so we open on a dream sequence. I mentioned this briefly in non-spoilers, but we sort of reframe the scene where Batman and Catwoman first meet in Long Halloween, and right away you can see that like it's a very artsy book. Sale does a lot of like big panels and like full page spreads throughout the whole thing, and really has a lot of fun with it. Like
Yeah,
he's really enjoying his time drawing this.
it's really allowing you to like take this in. Heck, there's some two-page spreads that he just initials and signs like
Yeah,
in the
I
art.
yeah, like he just does that quite a few times throughout this where he's just like, yeah, you know what, that's just a really good page, and he signs it because he usually only does that for like the last page of each issue, but here he does it like multiple times throughout each issue, and yeah, you can't blame him. Like they're good pages. But yeah, so we reframe the Long Halloween where Batman and Catwoman meet at the safe, and Falcone's men bust in and they shoot at them, and they do this jumping across the rooftops, and then things get weird because the Joker shows up with a Tommy gun and is shooting at Catwoman, and Batman is no longer chasing her, and Two Face shows up, and it very quickly becomes apparent they're like, hey, this isn't actually happening.
That
Um,
this is clearly a dream, and it's all sort of representative of just Selena's current mental state because Batman swoops in to rescue her. She insists, she has this under control, and that she doesn't want his help, and she needs to figure out who they are, who he is with masks off. So he takes off his mask and
it's
takes out a
Carmine
gun.
Falcone. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a dead Carmine Falcone. You can see like his skin is discolored, and he pulls out a gun and shoots her in the dream, and she wakes up from the dream, um and she's on a flight to Rome with one Edward Nygma sitting next to her. And I'm curious, what did you make of the way that Loeb characterizes Riddler in this?
Oh, he is so pathetic, and it's perfect.
Mhm.
Like,
You
this
did call
is
the twist though, like right from the start.
yeah, because well, okay, it's kind of obvious.
Well, also I would say like Riddler is playing a bit too much of like a bumbling idiot to actually be the Riddler, you know.
Yeah,
um,
he's right there. But like, I love how the first thing we see of him, he's just like lying back, getting annoyed that she's calling him Eddie.
mhm,
Um, and I love their dynamic because she's only using him to try to figure out, okay, who's her actual father? Is her hunch that it's Falcone correct, or is it someone else, or will she ever know?
mhm.
Uh, but
And so oh, go ahead. Sorry.
they arrive in Rome, and her luggage is gone. Um, and I love this banter that the Riddler's just like, statistically speaking, this is why you should only use a carry-on. I had 11 pairs of shoes to pack. You can't put 11 pairs of shoes in a carry-on, Eddie. Um,
And they just have like such a fun dynamic off each other. It's really nice.
uh,
Um, but they outside the airport they're met by Blondie. He works for Don Verini. Um, and he takes them over to this hotel, right? Yeah, to a
yes.
hotel. Um, Selena takes a bath, um, and is and in her room she sees that like somebody's snooping about. It's Riddler, of course. He's in there. He wanted to let her know that he would be leaving for some reason. Um, and and so she kicks him out of her room. She goes off, and actually we get some really nice panels here of her like driving through the city on this I don't know what is it
A
actually?
moped. It's
Moped
a
there.
moped because
Um,
we're doing Jeff Loeb loves films like Breakfast at Tiffany's and Roman Holiday with like Audrey Hepburn because like and Sale's kind of drawing Selena throughout this miniseries kind of like Audrey Hepburn.
I will say,
Like
like it really does look like Sale has sort of changed the way that he draws Selena between Dark Victory and here.
yeah, which is fair because this is what 5 years at 4 years after Dark Victory would
Well,
have
Dark,
finished.
yeah, 4 years because Dark Victory finished publishing in 2000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like early 2000s. So yeah, so 4 years. But yeah, you like Selena goes out and she's basically just trying to find clothes that she can use as to still be Catwoman, even though all of her luggage is just gone.
hmm
Um,
And actually,
but
on like, she passes by this shop with like this like leather cat suit in it, and so she gets that, and goes out as Catwoman in that with a mask on. And honestly, it's probably my favorite Catwoman suit that Tim Sale I've seen Tim Sale draw
it's
personally. Like it's really nice.
yeah, it's like a darker. It varies between black and like this really nice dark purple,
hmm
which I think just looks so nice. And the use of lighting in this with Dave Stewart's coloring is is perfect. So you have Selena musing about the mafia, um,
She goes to
basically
see Don Verini,
Don
who
Verini.
uh who is like suspicious of her, but then takes a drink and very quickly dies of being of seemingly being infected by a Joker toxin. There's a smile plastered on his face, and he falls over dead. Um, and that's where the issue ends. That's where the
Yeah,
first issue ends. Yeah,
and
it's a great.
I was surprised at just how quick that first that like one this miniseries is quick.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, and also like each individual issue goes by really
yeah,
fast.
and I think that's kind of to its strength. Um, interestingly, because like one, this is supposed to take place over the course of a week,
hmm
and two, it's a midquel, so like we're in the middle of a bigger story, but it never quite feels like you just want to get back to what's happening in Dark Victory.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah.
very much stands on its own. You could read this with no context of Dark Victory,
hmm
honestly.
As long as you
Uh,
have like that last page from Dark Victory there.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
and you sort of understand who Falcone was because he's an ever-present figure despite being, dead.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
like,
definitely.
but he's there. Also love the issue 2 cover.
Oh
It
yeah, yeah. It's
This
really
might be my
nice.
favorite cover of the miniseries.
I think one takes it for me, but
That's also fair. But I just love it's just the figures with the gun and the little
mhm,
cat at the bottom.
yeah.
Uh,
But we open up on issue 2 exactly where we left off. Selena is, or Catwoman is standing above Don Verini's dead body. And these guard dogs start chasing after her, which actually makes for some really nice art. We get this like 2-page spread of her like running away. We see her in multiple poses and until she gets like close to like the front
Yeah.
of like the quote unquote camera, and
And,
we
and
do.
it's and it's to, show the motion. It's all in shadow until we actually see her running.
Mhm. And
Uh,
they do the same thing with the dogs down below.
yeah.
It's really nice. So she gets cornered by them. She jumps above this wall and gets back to her hotel room, and inside she sees that her luggage has arrived, and her costume is currently being used by one Edward Nigma.
Which okay, this
it's
image is hilarious,
it's such a
right?
funny scene. Like I really love this bit. But yeah, so she gets him out of her costume. She kicks him out again. We get a lot of
After
scenes
he
like that throughout
suggests
this.
that wants to know, tell me you've never wondered how you'd look in a skin-tight green leotard with question marks all over it and a nifty bowler hat.
Which is really funny because Loeb and Sale have always made it that Riddler is dressed not in the green leotard, but the green suit
The
rather.
green suit. I prefer this. I mean, okay, the leotard is campy fun.
Yeah,
Um,
but the suit's always better, I
the
think.
suit has like a touch of class.
Yeah,
And I think you can,
like.
if you're doing a story where the Riddler is like losing, the
Hmm.
suit you can draw differently, whereas the leotard, like to show him disheveled and losing his mind, whereas
Yeah.
you can't do that with a leotard.
Hmm. So then we get our first, like I would say, proper scene of horny Jeff Loeb.
Yeah,
Um,
yet at least for the first page,
yeah.
it's
Um,
fairly tasteful.
mhm.
Like
Yeah. Okay, so we get a scene where Selena is completely naked, asleep. And then this image of Batman appears above her and aims a gun at her face, and she attacks him. Um, and finds out that she's hallucinating, and that Batman is in fact Blondie, and she is she is squatting above him in a
in
state
a
of undress.
in a state of undress, but she has wrapped herself in a sheet, luckily. So the state of undress is mitigated by that.
Yeah,
However, he does get a full boob view.
yeah.
Because Jeff Loeb is a horny
He
old
is,
man.
which is weird because like I don't think he was like I can't think of any instances where he's like this in a Long Halloween or Dark Victory.
Maybe a little bit with Poison Ivy and Poison Ivy's general design.
Maybe I
Maybe,
don't
but
know. I don't
like
think it ever quite goes that far.
no, he's just there's just some bits where it gets men writing women and you know and just weird. But Sale's clearly trying to mitigate some of it.
Hmm.
Uh,
But yeah, so Riddler comes in, and says that what was it? There's just a fire happening there in the hotel room. What is the reason for it? Uh, no, did they actually say why?
no, there's just a fire. There's just a fire,
I mean,
and
the implication is probably that Ed started it, right?
yeah, he did it. And we also find out that Blondie does in fact have a gun, and he lies
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. But
Also,
yeah,
I love Riddler's costume here. With just these baggy shorts that are
mhm.
like
and
green.
and and Sale draws him so small, like just really really small compared to Selena and Blondie. So the fire's going on. They all jump out of the window and into the pool, and so they get her a towel. Later in the
I
day,
I
oh, go
love
ahead.
I love her line. I love her inner monologue. Great. I've been chased, chomped, attacked, and now firebombed, and it's only Tuesday. Um,
But yeah, so later in the day, she's hanging out by the pool once again, with Riddler there, and it seems to be that this scope is like aiming at her, and Blondie comes out and shoots the assassin from wherever he or
yes.
she is.
Well, this
Um,
this is this is a different place. They've moved to a different fishing village.
oh, okay, you're
To
right. Yep,
to
sorry.
Blondie's safe house. I love that. Like, okay, so he has a name. I'm
Uh,
90% sure it's Christopher, but
Christopher Costello, yeah.
Yeah, we don't learn that for like a good 3 issues.
No, 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 no. It's here in this second issue.
It's here in this issue? Is this where we
Yeah,
learn it?
yeah. The inner monologue. Selena says, "This guy Blondie, he's Christopher Castillo. He kills people for a living. He likes it." Yeah,
Right,
yeah, it's
right.
right there. But anyway, so Blondie kills or shoots the assassin. Gives Selena a chance to slip away and put on her Catwoman costume. So we get the first time of her actually in the purple costume from the Dark Victory and Long Halloween stories. So she comes out here. These thugs attack her and Blondie. Um, so she takes them on. I kind of like this bit where like she's fighting them herself, and like Blondie and Riddler are watching from a distance. Riddler tries to see through the binoculars that Blondie is holding, and he aims a gun at Riddler.
Just
Just
right
I
as
just like that.
Edward Nygma can't catch a break. Like he has been threatened with a fork and several guns at
Yeah.
this point in the story. You feel like, okay, it's clear, he's still the Riddler, he's still a bastard, but he kind of does he deserve all of this abuse?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
But we then find out that the assassin that was attempting to kill Selena has white skin and is seen from a distance. Selena goes after him, and she thinks at first that it's the Joker. But instead, this pale man pulls out Mr. Freeze's gun and freezes Selena in a block of ice. And it is definitely not the Joker, as he's pale skinned, white hair, and has a big scar across his left eye.
Yes.
And it's great.
Again,
It's a cool design. I really like it.
and this is where issue 2 ends, and we're a third through. This is how quick this story goes, and I think
Oh
that's
yeah,
really
it's a
to its
really
asset.
quick. Yeah, definitely.
Like
So we
I was
okay.
gonna say I was a little nervous going in that like, oh, we aren't getting a full 12 issue miniseries this time.
It doesn't
But
need to be though.
no, it doesn't. I think that would slow it down way too much.
Hmm.
Um, and just it just wouldn't
Either
work.
either that, or maybe I'd like it to be a 12 issue miniseries, because then Tim Sale could just extend his big page spreads and make it that way the entire series. I don't know.
I mean, if you
Maybe
want to
that
do that, you can just double the page counts of these issues.
that's true. That is true. Anyway, so we pick up in issue 3 once again, exactly where we left off. And or a little bit after where we left off. These assassins have gotten away, and I like this bit where like Riddler is like painting these targets on the block of ice, and Blondie is gonna shoot it. It seems.
It's like,
I don't know.
question, how do you get a cat out of a block of ice? Answer, just shoot her here, 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 and here.
It's fun. It's a really fun moment. So they shoot her out of the block of ice, which I don't know if that would actually work. Come to think.
It wouldn't, probably.
I really don't think that would work. Anyway,
No.
so we get Catwoman out of here. And interestingly, they don't really touch on it too much here. But Selena is trying to keep her identity a secret for the most part.
Yeah, and it doesn't quite work because
Oh yeah, because they make it pretty apparent later on that like Blondie sort of always knew that it was
it's
her.
like it's Blondie has two brain cells and can put together, oh look, Selena's disappeared and now there's this mysterious Catwoman.
Yeah, and Riddler is helping out both Selena and Catwoman.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, so she gets out of the block of ice. Catwoman is knocked out, and we have another dream sequence here, which I actually really like. Um,
It's
it's a
this
Selena
creepy
on,
surgery sequence, right?
which is really cool actually because they call it out later in this miniseries, but there's that bit towards the end of the Long Halloween where Batman jumps into the room and he takes out the big room of villains. And his inner monologue is about him like acting like a surgeon, like his father, taking out the biggest problems first and reducing that down. So we sort of get that here. It's literally Batman as a surgeon over Catwoman on an operating table,
Yeah.
and it's
And
cool. It's just a really cool scene. And then he goes to cut her throat open, and there's that. But
yeah,
you know,
I love the way like the initial like single page is drawn just with the three lights from above, because this just turns into just this weird, like we're at a Dutch angle, we're in sort of a horror movie, and then you see the cowl with all with like the surgical bandages,
Mhm.
um, and Selena just rips him apart, um, and comes to the conclusion, you'll never accept me for who I really am, only as the socialite rich girl you want me to be, Bruce. Um,
and
Again, indicating that she, on some level, her mind
mhm.
probably knows
Yeah,
that.
and so she wakes up, um, uh, holding Riddler by the throat, um, And again, I just love the way that Sailor draws Riddler throughout this. It's very different from how he did it in Long Halloween and Dark Victory, but it's really nice. Especially like showing like the power dynamic between him and Selena.
Yes.
But
She's
yeah.
also she's been unconscious for like a week. So
Hmm.
we're still on Wednesday, but just the next Wednesday. Um, and Eddie's been like, "Oh, I've been at your side." Um, and
And he says he didn't allow Blondie to see her without her mask on.
as soon
Um,
as Selena thinks, it was like, of course, getting you out of your Catwoman costume wasn't the worst job in the world. And he gets punched in the face like
as
he
he should.
totally deserves.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so Selena goes out to see Blondie. Then they have this nice little conversation about the Italian mob. It seems, and I don't know, it's just nice. Like it's nice to see like a nice bit of world building here, where Blondie talks about like his father and his father's father. They worked for the Beretta family, um,
Yes.
and so yeah, I don't know, it's just a cool little moment here where like we see them sort of like talk about where Blondie comes from, and honestly like Blondie like as a character, like obviously he can't really survive beyond this one story, and you sort of have that in the back of your mind throughout this whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
when
mean,
he's
he's
just
also
he's a
meant to be paralleling Bruce Wayne as a character because his parents were dead when he was 10, or his dad was killed when he was 10. The same age as Bruce's parents,
Mhm.
which is a funny coincidence.
We also
Uh,
find out here that Carmine Falcone was Blondie's godfather.
Godfather.
Um, and so he was always sort of like Uncle Carmine to him, and so there's like this even like deeper connection between these two characters, and it
Yeah.
really works.
It also it really sort of shapes their dynamic too, just as characters from this point on, where you never quite know 100%. Like, oh, is this going to be smooth sailing in a relationship, or are we going to be super rocky?
Hmm.
Because it's 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 filling in just the details of the Falcones. Like there's also the detail, oh, he was supposed to be at Johnny Vidi's wedding. So this is someone who could have been in the background and could have gotten wrapped up in the other two mysteries, but obviously didn't. And
Hmm.
having him here also just makes for an interesting dynamic because it's clear he clearly realizes Selena and Catwoman are the same person and is just playing along.
Hmm.
So when night falls, we have um, we have
So Selena goes to literally the Vatican, to St.
yes.
Peter's Cathedral, to retrieve this ring. And wait, what was the ring again? I forgot.
It was a ring from uh, it was I think it was a ring of Falcone's
That's
or
right.
of
Okay.
the Falcone family. So
Yeah.
one, just the image of infiltrating the Vatican.
Hmm. Oh,
You
it's really
go
there's this really great like two-page spread where she like drops in front of the statue, against a big cross.
yes.
Really
Well,
strong imagery.
yeah. So it's Michelangelo's La Pieta, and she's kind of in an upside down cross position, which just with as the way she's dropping down. Um, of course, the Pieta being, the image of Mary holding the crucified Jesus in her arms. Um, and she finds her way, she cuts her way in through the glass with one of those like glass cutters and
Hmm.
finds at the base of the statue is this ring.
And so she
And
gets the ring out and is swiftly attacked then by a long cheetah's tail, which belongs to none other than the cheetah
Cheetah,
herself, as in, the Wonder Woman
one
villain,
villain.
Cheetah. So I really want to know what your reaction to that was when you
So
first
at
read
this
that.
point, I was like, "What? Wait, why are you here? Is it just for the pun? I think it's just for the pun of
Very
of
possibly.
of Jeff Loeb wanting a cat fight. Like,
Which
uh,
is literally the line that ends off issue 3. Anybody up for a cat fight? And it's yeah, it's certainly something. But
yeah.
Yeah, and again, once again, just I love seeing Tim Sale draw any DC character that I haven't seen him draw before. So this is just really nice.
And honestly,
Um,
this is the what's interesting is also at this point where I noticed, hey, we actually have taken Selina out of Gotham City, despite having like the callbacks of things of different villains like the Joker's Toxin and Mr. Freeze's Freeze Gun. We haven't seen any other like classic Batman rogues outside of Riddler, but
yeah.
he was set up as part of the story and
Mhm.
not just like and
And
then
you
not
know
just
what? You know what? Seeing this again, I think issue 4 is my favorite cover.
that's also fair. They're all really good covers. Tim Sale has never done a bad job
Hmm
um, doing colorizing stuff like this.
hmm
Um,
And speaking of how great Tim Sale is, we open issue 4 on a flashback to year 1, and Tim Sale gets to draw year 1, and that's just fucking awesome. Um,
yes,
it looks really nice.
it's
I
in
really,
this.
really like it.
It's in this just this orange and yellow tint.
We
Uh,
see the scene where Selena scratches Falcone's face, and he gets the 3 claw marks on his face.
the
Um,
first meeting between the bat and the cat. This time from Selena's perspective,
mhm.
which I love. It just feels so different from the way Frank Miller obviously wrote the scene.
Well, yeah, because year one's meant to all be from Bruce's perspective, so there's that.
Yes.
But seeing this is really cool, and honestly, just like we do this a couple times throughout the story, like the first scene of the story where we see the reframing of the Long Halloween scene where Selena's stealing from the vault. So we do that a lot throughout this, and just seeing Selena's perspective on these big events is really interesting.
It also has like I think my favorite line from the comic. What I really remember was that it was a Thursday, and I hate Thursdays because no matter where you are, it means you're not finished yet. Um, which is just kind of what I was feeling. When I read this, I actually read this on a Monday through a Saturday. Like
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
thought
let's
I thought that was really cool when you chose to do that.
yeah, because I was like, ooh, this might make it interesting and make it different, and it definitely makes you feel the pace, and it lets some of the cliffhangers and developments hang and makes you kind of think about them, in a lot of ways. But yeah, so we have this scene, and even with the yellow, there's also just this scratchiness to the art, not
Hmm
not quite replicating David Mazzucchelli, um, but evoking the past and
hmm
kind of almost evoking like an ancient history as an
Yeah.
idea because it's in monochrome. There's this amazing spread. There's the single page of just Batman standing, asking Selena to hand over what she stole, and he'll return it.
hmm
Um, and he, and she just tells him to go to hell with that
hmm
standoffish.
And then so as Selena starts to come to in present day, Batman like sort of attacks her, and then we transition to her being scratched in the face by Cheetah, and then she wakes up and she's been chained up by Cheetah,
In
and
the Colosseum.
yeah, and Cheetah has this great line, time to let out the lions, as she screams it above Selena. It's just a great scene. So Sheeta has grabbed the ring now. Selena is freeing herself from these from this rope that Cheetah has tied her in, and we get another fight here. Great fight here. Where they're fighting over the ring. And it's Tim Sale drawing a fight scene. What else do you want? It's a great scene.
Yeah, there's also just the interviews like, oh wait, why are you just stealing this ring? You infiltrated the Vatican. You could steal several jewels, or several priceless paintings and statues. Um, and it's throughout this fight that Loeb uses the time to basically catch anyone coming in late up to speed, with basically a recap of what Selena's been doing, and the Joker toxin being found, Mr. Freeze's gun, and now the cheetah, making her Italy's first supervillain if you don't count Mussolini, which that's a line that's interesting.
I don't know.
Uh,
I think it's a cool line. I like it.
it's a very quippy line.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this whole idea of Gotham City is trying to basically invading Rome with all of its villains, also Cheetah, because
Yeah. But as the fight goes on, eventually, we see once again another like scope view where they're being aimed at for some reason. But this time it is Blondie who shoots a trank dart into Cheetah, knocking her out, and then Blondie and Catwoman sort of team up. We get this kind of funny little scene where Blondie asks where the ring is, and Catwoman says where it's safe and like points to her chest, and Blondie just gets like this really like just like sad lone panel where he's like, oh,
oh,
I think it's funny. I don't know.
it's
Um, yeah, I
weirdly
don't,
enough, he's not been sexualizing really Selena or Catwoman throughout all this.
no, he hasn't been.
That's all been Eddie's job.
Mhm.
Um, and he pulls a gun on her. It's like, what are you doing in Rome, Catwoman? Don't ever pull a gun on me. And she just slices the barrel in half.
And then she gets away, and later that night we're on Blondie's yacht, and Selena is stitching herself up, and some Jeff Loeb horniness again. You know what else do you want? But Batman shows up once again, and comes to embrace Selena, and they kiss, and we end the issue on this great page of finding out that she's hallucinating again, obviously, and it is in fact Riddler that she's kissing, and like he's standing on a suitcase.
Because he's so short. And my brain just was like, okay, she's got to be infected with like fear toxin or something to create these hallucinations.
And were you still assuming that Riddler was behind all this up to
Oh
this
yeah,
point?
yeah. Like, there's no real misdirect. It's him.
Yeah.
Like, he's
And once again, on the idea of stretching this out to 12 issues, my God, could you imagine knowing what the twist is, 11 issues before it happened?
no, that
Like,
would not work.
yeah. There's just so many reasons why like, this works as a 6-issue miniseries, and I really like it.
Yes.
So, we pick up issue 5 exactly where we left off once again. Selena promptly kicks Eddie out of her room and into the ocean, as she should. um,
She's just shouting, "I hope you drown!" And
mhm.
I love just his falling figure. It's very slapstick and comedic.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
and he was like, "I can explain everything." It's like, no, no, you can't.
um, and Blondie comes out to see what's going on. They throw like a this like really tiny raft out to him. Or what do you call those things?
A life preserver.
Yeah, that's okay.
But
And
yeah,
so
Blondie's like, I could shoot him and make the sharks come faster. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna threaten the Riddler with being eaten by sharks.
And
Um,
blood you know what, this is like the one like kind of horny joke in this that I really do appreciate. I think is really funny. Blondie goes, in his defense, a man would not be a man if he were in a room with you dressed as you are and not appreciate it.
it's
It's
like
just a funny little moment. Selena's like reaction is drawn in a really funny way.
he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And she
Yeah,
realizes she's, in her underwear.
yeah.
Which I think it is the one horny joke that actually works and manages to be.
It's funny. Like it actually is funny. Mostly just because of the way that Sale draws Selena's reaction. But yeah, so then later that night, Catwoman goes out as Catwoman
Based
would.
on information that Eddie spilled, because
Hmm.
he apparently knows everything because he's the Riddler
Yeah.
and he's intelligent.
She goes out to see the pale person from before, who is Guillermo Verini.
Yes.
Um,
Uh,
he's what Don Verini's son, who is now the current Don, I guess.
yes, hosting a dinner. I really like. We haven't mentioned it. There's a decent chunk of this book that's just in Italian.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and they don't translate it. It's just,
yeah,
here's some Italian because people would naturally just be speaking Italian out here.
yeah, and I mean, I suppose you could maybe guess what some of the things mean, but like,
Yeah, like when there's this lone panel of Verini saying bastardo, it's like, okay, well, no shit,
no shit.
uh,
But also just the art also tells the story very well.
yeah, like you don't need to know Italian to understand the fact that they're not translating the Italian.
Yeah. Um,
It works.
yeah, and I think it's a thing that some things that will include like mixed languages sometimes get too hung up on including translations when they don't need to. You're telling a story. Let your audience be intelligent and be able to read what you're trying to say about a story when you tell
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
But
Uh,
but yeah, so Catwoman confronts Verini, and I don't know, we get Blondie is like actually like acting as a sort of backup here, still pretending that he doesn't know who she is, which I really like. Uh,
Yes. She's baiting him with the ring.
and
She
she asks where Luisa Falcone is, which is who she's been after, the Roman's wife, as she calls her. Um,
yes.
and so
I also love it's like, you have you have the big three going against you in any murder. You had motive with Pop out of the way, you become the new Don. You had opportunity. You could have laced his Vino with the Joker juice anytime you wanted, and you're ugly. Okay, so maybe ugly isn't the third thing. The last time I saw you, you turned me into a frozen dinner. Where'd you get the freeze gun? And we just work our way, to where is Luisa Falcone? Uh, and this is where it gets a bit quippy, just with the way Selena is portrayed, and that feels occasionally awkward. Like the quips feel just a little too much here.
and there's not much of it.
Yeah, but it just feels kind of out of place for what the rest of the book's been going for. You
Yeah,
know?
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I mean, Selena, if you're talking about her in her monologue, right?
Right.
Like her in a monologue has kind of been sarcastic and quippy the whole time.
Yeah, but then it coming out in her actual dialogue makes it just a little weird in places.
Mm,
Like especially with, the okay, so that was two questions, sue me. Like that just feels unnecessary, you know? Uh
where is that?
when she's confronting him right underneath
Oh
where
no,
Louisa.
but that's her in her monologue though. She's not saying that.
Yeah, but it just feels a bit too winky to the audience.
I'm going to disagree on that. But anyway,
Okay.
she makes her way to this castle looking place
On a cliff.
Where Luisa Falcone is being
It's
guarded by
it's
these
a it's
like
it's a I think the idea is that it's a convent. So we get nuns with guns.
and it's great. I love it.
What is it?
Um
There's more than one piece of media that I have seen where nuns have guns, and I think that's a good thing, at least for
yeah,
media.
yeah. Or I
Uh,
mean alternatively, real nuns could have guns.
I mean, yes,
That'd be great. But anyway, Selena makes her way over to Luisa Falcone, who we find out is blind and is
yes,
surprisingly young, I thought when I read this.
yeah. Really looks really
Which
young.
also, I think, weirdly makes sense that
Uh,
Luisa would be so much younger than Carmine.
yes, definitely. It's definitely I think it's an intentional choice on the part of Loeb and
Oh,
Sale.
yeah, definitely.
Uh, Especially since Carmine Falcone wasn't a good person.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
yeah. We should definitely make that clear. Like we appreciate Falcone as a character, but like he wasn't a good person.
we
Um,
can we here at Fresh Face Comics have a modicum of media literacy and can understand when a character, while being a interesting character and a cool character, isn't necessarily a good person, and you're not supposed to idolize said character. Uh,
Minor tangent actually. Now that we brought up Falcone, I've been watching Gotham because I've watched it a while back, but I dropped off at some point. I'm actually taking the time to try to finish it now, and I hadn't realized seeing John Doman's performance as Carmine Falcone again, how much he is Falcone in my head whenever I read a comic.
Easy. Gotham's a
Like
show that I'm eventually gonna have to watch, aren't I?
he's really good. I mean, the cast of that show is what fucking makes it. There are some weird decisions, but the cast is always phenomenal. Anyway, so Selena
I
makes.
also I should say I love the art here too, like on this first page with Louisa and
Mhm.
how this entire sequence goes to this sepia brown.
Well, the whole scene just feels so sad.
It's
And
muted and it's there's just this sad loneliness.
mhm.
Uh,
and so Selena tells Luisa straight up, I believe you may be my mother. I have reason to believe that Carmine is my father, and so Luisa says, "May I?" So she touches Selena's face, and Luisa says, "I can tell you are a very beautiful woman, Signora, but I'm afraid you've come to Rome for nothing. I only had one daughter." And Selena says, "Yes, I know her, Sophia." Luisa, I can only imagine how absurd this sounds, but are you sure? To which there is no response.
yes, and
And
it's such again just the haunting face here.
mhm.
Because then Selena leaves out the window, and Luisa just goes to the window and is looking solemn.
Yeah, and she almost looks like a ghost in those panels. I
Yeah,
really love it.
So it's clearly telling the reader something, which
Hmm.
I think is just great. It's always knowing when to tell, uh, when to tell the reader something versus the character something, and then being able to read into that is a trick. And I think Sale just is perfect at it.
Yeah.
And then Stewart's colors just you get this flash of orange, the occasional green on the side from the rain up to this, conversation in Italian with Blondie basically being told to assassinate Catwoman.
Yeah. And
Now
so
that could have been an ending thing, but
mhm.
it's not.
But we still have one more thing to do. Selena goes out in the rain, where she is met once more by a hallucination of Batman that attacks her at first, and then and then we get the big reveal. Selena says, "Did you think I wasn't paying attention? That by you playing the fool, I wasn't watching you closely. Joker juiced Mister Freeze's gun, getting Cheetah into the country. The Scarecrow's fear gas. Who else had access to all those Gotham City goodies? Come on, Eddie. How
How
stupid do you
stupid do you
think I
think I
am?"
am?
To which Eddie says, "Answer on any given day, pretty
Pretty
stupid."
stupid. Also,
Where
the
we
Scarecrow is like there.
Yeah, yeah, like as a character, like Scarecrow's just there. But we get this great two-page spread of Eddie with Cheetah, Scarecrow, and Don Verini, and
And he's
and it's
holding this
great.
bloody sword.
Hmm.
And that's where issue 5 ends. And this is basically the I mean, this takes place of the, how in Long Halloween and Dark Victory, there was always a moment where all the villains would be together. And I
Hmm.
love how small scale it is here because we're in Rome and we're
Yeah,
outside of Gotham
but
and
we
we're,
but we do utilize literally every villain that we've had up to this point, you know.
yeah, like they're all used and they have their part to play.
Mhm.
Um,
There's
Also,
there's even a surprise extra villain towards the end that we've seen before in a non-villainous way, you know.
yes.
It's great. It's really great. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but I also just find it interesting that like Loeb showed restraint and didn't try to like stuff every other villain in this miniseries.
Hmm. You
Like
know
we
what's weird though? Is there a bit in Long Halloween where Mr. Freeze doesn't have his gun? Or sorry, Dark Victory,
Dark
not Long
Victory. I
Halloween.
think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Is there?
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. Mr. Freeze isn't in it until after Selena has left, right? Because he's
So you're saying if this is all before Freeze shows up in Dark Victory, then his gun could be returned to him
yes. I think that might be the
by
idea.
Scarecrow, perhaps?
By Scarecrow, yeah,
That could happen. Hmm.
yeah. Or I
Weird.
suppose Cheetah, but Cheetah isn't in Dark Victory,
Yeah.
so
Anyway, on to the final issue. Once again, as always, picking up exactly where we left off. The fight breaks out. Catwoman is left to fend for herself against all these villains. Mostly focusing on a fight between her and Cheetah here at the start.
yes. Um, yeah. I love the reflection here, sort of on Selena realizing she's in Batman's position at the end of Long Halloween, right? Where Batman is taking on this room
Hmm.
full of
Well,
rogues.
that's where I called it earlier.
Yeah, the whole
The
surge.
surgery thing. Yeah. Where she even says, like, I think in her inner monologue, she's like, like he was performing a surgery.
Yes,
Um.
taking out the most dangerous piece first and work from there. In this case, that's the cheetah. More cat, less woman. The scarecrow, who clearly provided the fear toxin that's been screwing me up, can't do much once I've been exposed to it. Guillermo Verini is back with the Mr. Freeze gun. My bolo will keep him out of this. That leaves Eddie, the cockroach, for dessert. Um, and her first line on that first page is, "Answer, I'm going to kick your ass," and that just pisses Eddie off because nobody asked her a question.
Mhm.
Um, and, like that's kind of where I was thinking when I was reading this too. I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
why are you
it's
responding?
just a
There's no
fun
one.
little like action-packed opening to the issue. It's like, nope, that line doesn't actually make any sense.
But like they lampshade it, and they lampshade it really well
Yeah, yeah,
because it's
um,
in character for her just to try to piss off Edward Nigma.
yeah,
Um, because it's so easy to piss that man child off,
hmm,
as we have seen in
yeah.
every other appearance.
But
Uh,
but we take them out in the order that she's talking about. We go after Cheetah, we go after Scarecrow, we go after Guillermo Verini, and we get this great dialogue from Riddler throughout all of this. Probably my favorite bit. um, here is actually where Riddler says, "What's new, pussycat?" And,
Pussycat.
in Selina's head, she goes, "I almost wish you'd kill me before I hear that question again in my life." I just think that's fun. And then also, I just like this bit here on the next page where we're in her inner monologue. Um, well, Riddler's saying, some might say the greatest riddle of them all, and Selina in her inner monologue is going, every time he says that, I want to throw him overboard. Hey, hey, genius time. I just like, I don't know, I like that because it feels like how a person actually thinks, like how you just get
Yeah,
completely sidetracked by one little thought. Um, and I love that. But
yeah. Because she even comes to so how Gotham City's best riddle is who the hell is Batman under that mask? So but and she's doing this in between quips while trying to keep herself alive. It's like, oh, you drugged me because you thought I knew Batman's secret identity. Answer: I don't. Never have, never will. Oh, Eddie, you really are as dumb as you look. Um, Actually, I thought it was fairly clever of me. One way or another, I'd learned something of your secrets with you paying my tab. And as an added bonus, I'm taking that ring you stole that everybody's dying to get their hands on. So, question: who's looking down dumb now? Uh,
answer, that'd be you, bub. And so she freezes all the other villains there, leaving only Eddie. And
she catches her tail in the ice. Uh,
yeah, which is a fun little moment. But she cuts that off and goes to collect these I neglected to mention it last issue, but she was looking at these like family portraits of the Falcone family,
yes,
specifically Carmine, Luisa, and a daughter.
and a
Um,
daughter, and yeah, but
yeah,
because she's also starting to fire on the ship, so they're the ship's blowing up. So she takes them and jumps off the ship as it explodes, lands in the water, and reaches out a hand and is rescued by Blondie. Um, you know, uh, would it make a difference if I said I'll buy you another boat? Because
and
this was his boat.
yeah. And then we get all the answers. Blondie comes clean about everything that he knows, and that is that Louisa did in fact have a second daughter. And it is implied, though they never say it directly, that it is in fact Selena Kyle.
Yes.
And
And for the flashback, seeing it, we go back to that yellow and orange and red style, which I love
yeah,
that
that they
we
used in the year one flashback.
yeah that
Yeah.
we brought it back around.
Mhm.
Uh, and what's interesting is this idea is that he was there 5 years old at the time to see it, um, and it was this that prompted his father to teach him how to shoot a gun and not be bothered and basically be self-sufficient as a 6-year-old, which is it's this great little look. I'm surprised Loeb didn't do it more with the amount of mafia characters that all three of these miniseries have had to actually try to go into like the mind of the mobster and
Mhm.
question, sort of what it does to a person outside of
Yeah.
just these very brief glances. And I kind of wish we had just a little more of that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So once again, drawing on the fact that Blondie is meant to represent Bruce in this story, uh her and Blondie kiss, and later that night Blondie is confronted by Luisa Falcone,
yes.
who I love this scene for her. She was very much, clearly keeping this secret from Selena, and she's pissed that he gave it away. um
Yes.
and so Blondie gets what he deserves, or what he has coming in this case, and she
Well,
kills
because
him.
she wants that ring. She wants the
Hmm.
ring. It's like I've known you all my life, Aunt Louisa, and you only speak American when you are angry. Then you should know that it's not the time to screw with me. I believe the ring was lost when my ship went down. If it is anywhere, it has been swept out to sea. And she's like, then you should have killed the Catwoman. That was your job. I know this silence. You fell in love with this girl, and in doing so, you betrayed your family. Uh, uh, More's the pity, Christopher. And she just shoots him in the back.
Yeah. And I don't know why there's just something so badass about blind old nun lady shooting him in the back. Like, I don't know. It's great. Anyway,
It's
so he
it's a
dies.
haunting image for basically ending this character.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. A fairly likable character.
yeah,
But anyway, so Selena's ready to get going when she's confronted by Riddler with a knife to her face. He wants the ring, so she gives him the ring, and he
yes.
leaves. Um,
I
so
love. I love that his last line to her is, it's Edward, you bitch, because he just keeps calling him Eddie.
Yeah, and we get this great inner monologue from Selena towards the end, as Eddie is leaving on a flight home back to Gotham. She goes, "I almost feel sorry for Eddie. For a smart guy, he sure can come to some dumb conclusions. Maybe someday he'll solve that riddle of who is Batman under that mask for all the bad it'll do him. But this ain't that day." And so the ring, in fact, had like some Joker and fear toxin laced into it, and all the people on the airplane turn into Jokers, and it's a great little
Yes.
moment.
Mainly
And also,
because Selena's already planted the fear of Joker. It's like, hey, he's going to be pissed that you stole his toxin.
mhm,
Which, like, yeah. Yeah, so he's just flying back to Gotham, hallucinating.
yeah,
Uh,
and also we get some hush foreshadowing there about Riddler knowing his identity. Um, but anyway, so yeah, so Selena we find out was waiting for Blondie to meet her at the airport, and he never came because he's dead. Um,
this haunting image of just his head in a pool of blood that we see.
mhm.
So she gets on the plane and kind of sadly just leaves.
Has the real ring with her.
Yes.
Um, and
Um,
uh, and so
I,
she says Eddie got a mock-up ring with fear toxin trigger. Hope he enjoys it. I kept the real one, of course. You never know when something like that might come in handy. I mean, according to the mafia, if there were such a thing, anyone who wears the ring becomes the head of all the families. And who am I to argue? After all, when in Rome, do as
do
the
as the
Romans
Romans
do.
do.
And we get this great final page of this Gotham City skyline, a silhouette of Catwoman and the airplane coming back into it, and it's beautiful. It's so fucking beautiful. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's like we're in Sunday, Gotham City, the end. And now
And
the collected edition just includes the page of Selena at the grave from Dark Victory, which,
mhm, which is one of my favorite pages in Dark Victory as a whole. Like
yes,
it's beautiful. The Veni Vidi Vici thing. Like, oh, it's so
yes,
good.
it's a beautiful page. But yeah, like I said, we don't get the definite resolution that yeah, Carmine Falcone was definitely Selena Kyle's father.
Yeah,
Technically,
yeah.
I
All
mean,
we all we know is that there was another daughter. It wasn't necessarily Selena. It could have been. It probably was, but
probably
who
was.
knows?
That's clearly the intention.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows? Selena certainly doesn't know for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting is I think this is an interesting case where a lesser writer could then have made the entire story feel kind of pointless because you don't get the answer that this story is setting out to search for. But it
mhm.
doesn't because we've gone on a journey with
and,
Selena
and yet
and
it still adds all the more meaning to that scene from Dark Victory of her at the grave.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
and
it's so good.
we
So good. And just oh my god, I always love talking about Jeff Loeb stories with you, like because I feel like we're totally on the same page with them, and it's great.
well, he Loeb's character work is probably where he shines the most. He understands motivation and he understands how to set up an arc and use his time wisely. At least in terms of what we've read. I'm sure there'll be something in the future by Jeff Loeb that like I dislike at some point.
It's very possible. It's
It's
very
very
possible.
possible.
Maybe we'll re-ultimate him someday. I
Yeah,
personally have never read it actually,
yeah.
so.
But like it's not something that obviously going to happen for a while. There are other Loeb stories to read, obviously before that. A couple from DC, a couple from Marvel, even probably.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, what I think When in Rome does the best one is this feels very intimate and very small,
Mhm.
which I think is for the best for it. Like it gives Selena an arc, and like at this point, like Selena, clearly as a character has already had several like has had a solo series, right? Like for a long time. But I love that she can really stand on her own, and Batman doesn't have to appear like in person.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, we have those little like hallucinatory
yeah.
bits, but no, like she is totally a character that has and will continue to stand on her own for a very long time. And
Yes.
I always like reading Catwoman solo comics. I'm sure we'll do more of those someday. This is a mini series, and it helped that it tied into something we've already read.
We've already
Um,
read.
but
Uh,
still, it's great. I think it's a really great mini series and really showcases Selena as a character.
I'm surprised this hasn't been adapted. Like, I feel like you
I
really
mean,
could
I
do
mean, in order
something.
to adapt this, you're asking someone to actually adapt Dark Victory in the first place. So
See, I feel like you could. I feel like you don't necessarily need to. I think there are things you can do to make it work
that's
without.
possible. You know what could actually really work though, especially with the way the Batman went 2022. Like you could have a solo Zoe Kravitz film, I
Yeah,
think,
you
because
could.
they killed off Carmine there. And anyway, it's great stuff. Anyway, yeah, I agree they should adapt this, but hey, who knows? Maybe someday. Who
Maybe
knows?
someday. It was Zoe Kravitz's voice for this one in particular that I was hearing coming out of
Ooh, that's
Selena.
interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, like Catwoman is always Grey Delisle for me, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but Gray Delisle just has such a distinctive voice that
play fucking Arkham City, Jacob. Damn it. God.
we're
Anyway.
working on it slowly but surely.
But yeah, I guess that about does it, doesn't it? Wow.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
And
I
also,
mean,
if we finish up within the next 6 minutes, this will be our shortest episode ever.
I mean, it's fair. This is a very simple thing. Like, it's a simple story that I think you should read, and you should definitely round out sort of the. I don't want to say the trilogy, like sort of just the trilogy of Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, Batman miniseries.
Hmm. But just read any Bat book by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. You know, there's still one we
Yeah,
haven't read actually.
Haunted Night, which
Yeah, we haven't
is
done Haunted Night yet,
I will
which we
say
will.
that.
We'll totally do it someday. Like I love talking about these stories with you, and honestly, I'll be really sad when we do Haunted Night because mean the end of the Jeff Loeb Tim Sale stuff that we've done.
Well, I mean,
Well,
there's
I
still
mean the
Superman for all
Batman. Well,
seasons.
the Batman stuff I should have
Yeah,
specified. But
it's so sad, and I'm gonna say, having lost Tim Sale so
and this
sadly
being the first thing we've done by him since his passing,
since his passing, that's
it's
just
we lost such a talent. We really
yeah.
did, and
I think this might have some of my favorite Sale art just in general. Like
oh,
it,
definitely, definitely. The coloring I think has a fair bit to do with that, but
yeah. I think it also might be. It might just be because it's shorter, and it might be because this was basically meant to be for sort of like that one last hurrah. Like
yeah.
there's an introduction in the deluxe edition from the editor, um, or one of the editors who was at DC at the time, because like they did Long Halloween. They then editor Archie Goodwin passed, and they did Dark Victory under someone else. Um, but yeah, Mark Chiarello wrote the editor to the was the editor of this and wrote the introduction to this edition. Um, and this was basically the idea. This was kind of an idea that Tim Sale almost had, because he wanted to draw the black version of Catwoman's costume.
Which is
Like,
actually really cool because uh when Rebirth started, and Tom King was on the early Batman issues, the variant covers for those were done by Tim Sale. And
ooh,
because that run was very like Batman Catwoman focused, he got to draw a lot of like current Catwoman in that Tim Sale style. And it looks fucking beautiful. Imagine the Hush costume in the style of Tim Sale.
which would look amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some of those. He did like the first like
Yeah,
20 odd variant covers, and
it'll
they were
be
so good.
it'll be fascinating when we get to Tom King's Batman, because I know we're going to cover that
It will happen.
eventually.
It will most definitely happen. So, all right,
Um,
are you ready to find out what the next episode is?
yeah, I have a guess.
All right, what's
Uh,
your guess?
I have a guess. So, uh, I've realized what we've done sort of in the last couple of Batman blocks is really have each of the Robins having a focus. Like, you got Dick Grayson with Dark Victory, you got Jason with Death in the Family, and you got Tim with Lonely Place of Dying. So I have a sneaking suspicion that we are possibly starting Grant Morrison's run on Batman to introduce Damian Wayne.
That is an interesting guess, but wrong.
Okay.
Um, I really love this because you completely disregarded all of your thoughts from our last bat block when you really should have taken them into account. Uh, ne-
I did it again, didn't I?
next time on Fresh Face Comics, we'll be reading Batman Under the Red Hood by Judd Winnick.
Oh, so
Um, now
ooh.
we're doing.
Now we're racing the dead one, the fucker from
Yeah,
the
I
dead.
wanted to give you some time. He can't just come immediately back from the grave, you know?
That's true. It took what, a decade before he came back? Well over?
Decade and a half, yeah.
Decade and a half?
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, so that'll be next time. And also we have adapted material for next time, which we haven't had in
Yes, we
yeah.
have the movie.
Yes. Yeah, so and also that's like one of the best DC animated films ever. So you're in for a treat. I think you've seen it before, though, right? A long time
A
ago.
long time ago, like a
Yeah.
good decade ago,
Um,
um, or so.
cool, cool, cool,
Cool.
cool.
Yeah. So
Well,
this
yeah,
is
that's very exciting. I can't wait for you to read it. It should be really fun. So we will see. All right, so I guess that about does it. As always, if you want to read the books that we covered on today's podcast and get our book for next time, those will all be down in the description below. You can also follow us on Twitter. I am at Jomo with 3 underscores. He is at Newt5996. And anything else? Are we good?
well, I mean, because this is coming out um, on next Monday from when we're recording. If you're in America and you're listening to this, you've probably been told this by a bunch of ads on YouTube or wherever you're watching. But please go out and vote tomorrow. Um, uh, Tomorrow should be election day, if I have my dates right. So, go vote. Have your choice in how this country is run, if you're American. If not,
You have been politically solicited by Jacob Licklider.
yes.
I love it.
Also, you may as well plug your other series that you're doing.
Yeah, we've been watching. At the time this comes out, we have only three videos out at this point. Me and my brother are watching through Star Trek for the very first time. We are well, recording wise, we're well ahead of where you guys are at. But you can watch the introduction video, and we've watched the first two episodes, The Man Trap and Charlie X. So you can go check those out. We're watching through the original series, and it's been such a great time. Yeah, so yeah, go check those out. It's been a really great series, and me and my brother have had a really good time with it.
Yes,
So yeah, I guess that about does it.
they're very fun. I've been watching along with them.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
all right, until next time, this has been Joey Morgan.
And Jacob Licklider,
Goodbye.
goodbye.